That's
life
what
or
Oklahoma
death?
right to life basically
Oh,
said.
okay.
And that's what
I was gonna
basically
say.
the bill says. And, the arguments were made, all the arguments were made, this is very invasive, it's forcing her to have all this stuff. But in the end, the vast majority of the Oklahoma legislature basically said, no, it doesn't seem that invasive since this is what is already going on.
Right.
And it's, compared to all the other things, it's not so invasive. So that's the bill the View is going to be talking about. So we're going to take a look. I've pulled 10 clips here. We're going to probably not get to all of them today. We'll do a two-parter here, I'm guessing. But we'll go ahead and play clip number 1.
A new law in Oklahoma has been temporarily blocked that requires pregnant women to watch a detailed ultrasound and hear a description of the fetus before they can get an abortion. Yeah.
When I heard that, because I am, after going through what I went through, I am not for abortion, but I do believe women should have a choice about what they do with their bodies. And so
You're not for abortion for
I am
yourself
not for abortion.
Anymore.
No, anymore.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I went through because I had abortions.
Right.
And I know what it did to my spirit. But I don't feel that the government should tell a woman what she should do with her body. Everybody has a choice to make.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the first word that stands out in what Whoopi said and just introducing it was the word requires.
In what context?
When she was introducing it,
it requires her
to see this.
To see a detailed ultrasound.
So that's factually incorrect.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's
right. What struck me, though, is when Sherry Shepherd, right? She was the one who's had the abortions.
Right.
Yeah.
Listening to her, she's had multiple. She said abortions.
Okay.
Yeah, she did.
So, which, always strikes a chord. Who gets into that position where they would have multiple, and what does that do? She mentioned that addressed, what that did to my spirit.
Right.
I don't support abortion anymore for myself. She's still taking that kind of cop-out route. But I really want to know, and I would ask her, anyone who makes that claim, and this goes back to some of the Pro-Life 101 we've done, is why is it that abortion hurt your spirit? Why is it that you don't support abortion for yourself anymore? What is going on with that, and should that be allowed to happen to other women?
Right, because the response is usually going to be, well, it hurt my spirit because I know that I allowed this human being to be killed, and then it's like, well, so you want that to be legal though, because other people might want to kill their kids, so do we maybe stop them from doing that?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Carrie.
It's not a logical argument that's happening within her mind. Based on what she said, and again, I'm not a mind reader, I'm just guessing on my experience and my own personal, experiences, use the word twice, but, is that I think a lot of women who have been through that and experienced the negative side of abortion probably are still so fragile, they're not ready to go and stand on any side of the argument. And so the best way to protect themselves is just to say what she said.
Right.
No one's going to come after you. And, because there are times when you can feel attacked. And if you're not prepared, that's not going to go well.
Yeah.
And it's going to cause more harm than it will be good. So.
Right, I can see that.
And I draw the inconsistency of just the argument, like you guys have been saying. Here I, as a male, am expected to give women everything, and maybe in some cases more, in terms of opportunity to get information they want, do what they want, especially within the realm of their own personal being, their own health, their own safety. And so now the presentation of the federal government will require that women be given all the information. Right. Or, even it's not even that, because that might be, okay, they don't want to know this. And again, we talked about how this just isn't accurate. What they say on The View is they're saying women should have the opportunity to get any information.
Right.
If I was to say that, people would look at me and go, well, yeah, okay, finally someone comes around. If I was to say that in the case of abortion, they look at me and go, oh, you're just shoving your political agenda down people's face. It's such an inconsistency.
Right. And here the thought that I had when I heard this the first time is that the argument that's being made is that the government should never tell a woman what she can do with her body, and it's kind of the typical pro-life response to that as well. It's not a part of your body because it's a child, and so does that mean that the woman, it's got its own fingerprints, its own DNA? What does that mean? It's got 4 eyes, 2 noses, 20 fingers. What if it's a boy? That's kind of the standard pro-life response. But, Kyle, you and I were down in Pasadena recently, and Trent Horn with Justice for All gave a really good talk about bodily rights arguments. We're going to be having Trent come on in October so he can present some of that material on the podcast, because I think it could be that that's as shallow as the argument is, but she might actually be making a very deeper argument, probably the best pro-choice argument that there is.
That's a good
point.
And
We're not going to really, I mean, we couldn't just do a very short version of what Trent explained, but we're going to get into how to respond to bodily rights arguments. And what I like about what Trent did is that he took the arguments that are being made. Once again, I think these are the best arguments that are being made for abortion choice, and he made them as good as he could.
Right.
He made them even better than some of the top abortion philosophers have done, and before refuting them. So but I don't also at the same time want to just leave it and no one gets to hear any of that. So I'll give one refutation to the idea that in general you should always have the right to do what you want with your body, because bodily rights in general are important. We agree they're important.
Of course.
Exactly.
We're not saying that the government should be able to tell you to do whatever they want with your body, but there are exceptions. And my favorite example of this, and the one that I use on college campus most often, is an example that my buddy Rich Papard came up with at Life Training Institute. He actually was the first one to write this out. Thalidomide is a drug. This is like, if you ever read like top 10 lists of horrible things that have happened in American medicine, this is like number one. It always is.
What is it?
Thalidomide is a drug that is like an anti-nausea drug. And so back in the 60s, they started giving it to pregnant women to help with morning sickness. And the problem is they did not know that if you give it to a pregnant woman, that child is probably going to be born without arms and legs. It causes severe fetal deformity like 100% of the time.
Wow.
So they pretty quickly figured out what was going on. They stopped giving thalidomide to pregnant women. So the example that Rich Papard gave when he talks about, when women talk about, the government should never be able to tell me what I can do with my body. Well, what would you do if a pregnant woman starts asking for thalidomide? We basically ask, do you think it would be right for a woman to go for that? And the doctor will probably say, well, no, you can't have it. Okay, well, what if she gets it, illegally, and takes it? Is that wrong? I mean, almost every pro-choice person I've ever talked to said, yeah, that would be wrong. It's like, well, why? You think it's worse to kill the child than to cause him or her to possibly be born without arms and legs? I mean, after all, it's her body, right? We should never tell a woman what she can do with her body.
Exactly.
She's having nausea.
Good
We should be able to. I mean, she should be able to do whatever she wants. Like, what you think the child is owed arms and legs if she's not going to have an abortion? That just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So there's other examples that we can go down to start talking about bodily rights, but we can't get into it today.
Well, and I'll just say, I mean, just kind of the side note that I wrote down when we listened to it, beforehand was, then why should we have any rules at all? I mean, and I know that's another extreme, but the government does tell us what we can and can't do. I mean, it may be a car that I'm driving, but it's my body that's driving the car, and yet they say I have to abide by a speed limit. I mean, even just people can get legally prosecuted for trying attempted suicides. So there are all
drug
kinds
use.
of other areas,
exactly.
drug use. I mean, where we can be in trouble for what we do when it harms ourselves and those around us. How is this any different?
So if the unborn is somebody around us and should count as a somebody, then it would play in.
Okay, that's a good example.
Clip number 2.
But hearing this right here, I still feel it's an invasion to force a woman to hear this, to force a woman to see this.
Well, they put a camera up your. That is an invasion, if I ever heard of it.
And I agree. Look,
Talk about an invasion.
I also do. I would rather, because I am, I guess, technically, and we all are forced to kind of decide what we are, pro-life, pro-choice, right? I think on paper, I would be pro-life. But I don't want the government necessarily to tell me what to do with my body either. I would rather change a heart than a law. That's just the way I think. I would rather change a heart.
She's right, but that was the totally wrong way to say that.
So what do you mean that she's right?